After what some would call a bounce back year in 2025, what are Victor Hedman's expectations for 2026? Plus, the Lightning already ranking number one in a preseason poll. We'll talk about it on today's Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free daily Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I want to start out by shouting out our everydayers, all of you who tune into every single show, every single day. We love you. We appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan, and I am joined by, what do we have today? Let's go Cedric Paquette to my, who is the center of that line? Was
it Killorn?
Was it? Yeah, we'll go. The Cedric Paquette to my Alex Killorn. I had to remember my random line combinations from 2016. Greg Steven. Greg, how's it going, man?
It's been a great weekend. Looking forward to chatting about a little Victor Hedman action today.
Yeah, the first year as captain, first year as the main guy in charge. I would call it a little bit of bounce back year in certain area of his game. Will that continue into 2026? We'll talk about that. Plus, the Tampa Bay Lightning are ranking first in a very specific preseason poll from the Athletic. Hint, it has something to do with the players on the team, not necessarily what their skill level is heading into next year. That's a little bit of a hint. We'll talk about that today. First, though, want to mention today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Greg, focus of today's show is Victor Hedman. We're going to look back at his 2024-25 season and talk about expectations as we see them for the Lightning captain in 2026. I would call this a bit of a bounce back year, Greg. 15 goals, 51 assists for 66 points, down a little bit from the year before, but his defensive stats went up. Fifth in Norris voting, first time he was back in the top five in Norris voting after a couple of years outside, 1 year finishing 16th. Big moment from the year, 600th assist, the first player to hit 600 assists in a Tampa Bay Lightning uniform. Kudos to him. And I think the big thing for him, mostly stayed healthy. Only 3 missed games during the regular season. Of course, the big off-season storyline, though, is he did get hurt in the last 3 games of that Panthers series. Broken foot. Doesn't sound like he's going to miss any time in camp, but it does delay his offseason a little bit from what JBB tells us. Greg, your thoughts on Victor Hedman's season last year?
I think it was excellent. And it's actually, I would consider it a hot take based on what I've read from a lot of the fans. It seems a lot of the people think that he's regressing. I just don't see it that way. As you mentioned, 66 points in 79 games. I mean, as a defenseman alone, that's an impressive feat, right? But tie that in with, that was his 4th highest career season in points, which, I think he's 34 now, maybe.
He's 34. I think he will get 35 next year.
So to have your 4th best point season and at age 34 is, as a defenseman too, is awesome. I don't see how you can knock him for that. I also want to throw a couple other really interesting stats for his season at you. 2nd fewest penalty minutes in his career the past season. That's awesome. That just you want to lead by example. And we've talked a lot about discipline being an issue for guys like Lilleberg and the younger guys that take some more penalties than they probably should. And the best way to teach is example, right? So 2nd fewest penalty minutes last season. Awesome. Another one, 4th highest shooting percentage in his career last season. Again, just he's firing the puck. It's not like he's taking the easy, lazy route on D. He's trying to get up in the play. I don't see his offense diminishing in any way. And look, in the 5 postseason games the Lightning played, not many, albeit 3 assists. I mean, look, that's 1 point shy of Kuch's total in the postseason, right? So, I mean, he did his job, in my opinion. And to do it with a broken foot, too. I mean, look.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to do anything with a broken foot. You mentioned off the top, a lot of people, I think, especially coming off of last season, we're thinking it's like, okay, we've probably seen our prime Victor Hedman years. Maybe if you're talking prime, sure. But I think when you're talking about him not really being an X factor anymore, that talk is full nonsense at this point.
Completely agree, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you look back 2 seasons ago to 2024, he was open to a lot of criticism, even though he kind of really started getting a little bit better as the season went on, but he did not do well defensively. In terms of defensive efficiency, probably one of his worst seasons. And on top of that, remember, he wasn't even, for a lot of points, like their number one offensive weapon on the blue line. You had points where Mikhail Sergachev started jumping onto that number one power play unit, so Victor Hedman's power play time wasn't what it was. So I think a lot of people, especially with Sergachev going out to Utah, I think a lot of people were like, okay, him and Ryan McDonough, J.J. Moser running the point, like what's this going to look like? And he did really well. And you mentioned, like, statistics-wise, one of his best seasons in years. You look at defense, his expected goals against rates per game went way down. His total goals allowed went way down. His shooting chances allowed went way down. And so, defensively, the efficiency was right there. And I think that's the biggest thing because, when a player like Hedman, starts to get a little bit older, it's usually that defensive stance when you're going against some of the top players in the NHL, especially a league that's as fast as it is now. That's usually the first thing to go. That actually got better last year as a 34-year-old.
Right. Yeah. And look, it's not like his offense has gone either. And I'll say it again, 66 points.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'll take it. He's 34. I think it's remarkable to be that productive still at his age and it to be his size as well. Size can result in a lot of injuries. He's a big boy, but look, I mean, 79 games as a 34-year-old is also fairly impressive. I mean, he's proving to be fairly durable in his older age, if you will.
Yeah, when he's not getting his foot knocked off in a playoff game.
Right.
Is there one area where you would maybe have a concern of his game?
I don't think so. I think I'd like him to embrace the captainship a little more. I feel like that's hard to describe, especially because as just spectators, we don't see what goes on inside the locker room from day to day, right? So we don't really understand the level of leadership he probably is already providing for the Lightning. But I think I'd like to see it just like a little more pronounced, especially to, I think, just like the whole fan base, just everyone. And I know he does that already, but I think he just needs to really step up and be like, I'm the leader, let's do this, and really inspire the young D and even the young forwards just to like, let's give it a much bigger shot this season,
You've seen a lot of people, I guess, come out and say like they're not kind of expecting sort of the emotional responsibility that comes with being the captain of the team. Obviously, Victor Hedman's been on this team for next year will be his 17th season.
Crazy.
He knows the league, he knows the players, he's fully ingrained in this team, but sometimes that extra little letter on your patch right there can add a whole lot of sort of unspoken expectations, I would say. So I'm with you. It's not the easiest adjustment, even for a guy like Hedman, who's a veteran, who's been in this league for so many years. But look, he's by far, I think even in, those later years where Stamkos was hurt and missed, some chunks of time here and there, I think Hedman was the player that those young players went to. I think he was the guy that players look towards and coaches look towards when things were going bad. He's going to fully thrive in this captain role, especially more in year 2. So yeah, I'm predicting big things for Hedman next year. And we're going to talk about what some of those big things are, including another interesting stat about his season last year, a trend I think might continue even more this year. We'll talk about that coming up in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Hey, you just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday? Well, how can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy, just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other sites. Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your posts at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates fast. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. All you have to do is go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show saying you heard about it on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Make sure you tell them Locked On Lightning sent you. Welcome back. We are talking about Victor Hedman's 2025 season and looking ahead to big expectations for him in 2026. Greg, we've talked about his last year. Let's talk about what we're going to get out of Victor Hedman moving forward. Is he still that prime guy on the blue line? And do you see him considering maybe some of his more positive trends from last year heading into this year?
Okay, I think my expectation for Victor Hedman this season is one that is very similar to this past season. And I have a few reasons for that. One, I don't think he's in his prime by any means, right? He's 34. So I think regression is expected more than anything. My prediction, however, is that he will remain about the same. The reason I think this is, one, the Lightning's defense right now is somewhat lacking on the back end, right? We don't have a ton of 5 and 6 guys that are super reliable right now. So that means, you rely on those big 4 right now, which is Moser, Hedman, Chernak, McDonough, right? Those are your 4. Of those 4, none of them are very offensively productive other than Hedman. So I think we see him on the power play. I don't see that changing unless something really shocks us or someone's play or they toy with stuff. I mean, it's very possible, right? But I think he is the offensive defenseman right now on this team, as well as the defensive defenseman. I think he
defenseman. Yeah.
I think he will continue to contribute offensively, though. I think we'll see him around the 60-point marker again. I don't see what other defenseman's going to touch the puck in the same manner that he does to put up 60 points. And maybe he puts up 50. I think that'll still be impressive.
Yeah. He is the guy that's holding a lot of offensive burden for the Tampa Bay Lightning right now, and not just really from the blue line, but he's a guy that I think spearheads a lot of things so well. You mentioned not really his prime years anymore, and I think you kind of see that in terms of just his speed, going down a little bit. He's not the guy that's going to go like coast to coast, single-handedly put his team on his back and just
he's not Cale Makar.
He's not Cale Makar anymore at this point.
Right.
But you know what? He is the veteran that goes out there and makes savvy plays for other players. And you saw that last year. He was the setup guy. He had gelled so well, not just with, Moser on the back line, but he gelled so well with Kucherov. That chemistry is still strong. We talked about his 600th assist, and that was a great defensive play from the back end to kind of spring. I cannot remember for the life of me who scored that goal, but it was a great play by Hedman to get there. He's that guy that's so good at setting up other players.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think something that is overlooked right now with the Lightning is they dealt Sergachev, right? And people forget that. And he was kind of that guy that could be on the power play, like you discussed earlier. He could be that guy who's going to put up offensive points, and you could rely a little less on Hedman, right? You take him off the power play. He's getting older. Maybe he gets a little more rest because of Sergachev being on the team. Now that Sergachev's gone, that increases his role tenfold, right? I mean, I think that just puts a lot more demand on his body and his game, which I think he can embrace, honestly. I mean, he is now the captain. He's a leader on this. He's been there, 17 years, I think you said. Look, I mean, these guys are all pals now at this point, too. It's not like he hasn't been playing with Point and Kucherov and Vasi for years and years now. These guys are all gelled. So you're right. I think he's a setup guy. He's an offensive guy. He's a defensive guy. And he's the guy.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned maybe Sergachev giving him a bit of a rest, because I found something interesting about Hedman last season. His ice time per game went down almost a full 2 minutes per game than what it was in the year before. And that's interesting because I'm with you. I was like, okay, there is more pressure on Victor Hedman now. Like, he's going to have to be more mature. 23 minutes per game and 5 seconds. That's nothing to see. That's a lot of minutes. You would still very much consider Victor Hedman a minute muncher, but that's actually his fewest time on ice per game since 2019. Wow. So it's interesting that in a season in which you kind of looked at him and said, okay, it's Hedman and who else, his ice time actually went down. His stats went up. And I'm wondering, Greg, moving forward into this year, if there is a situation in which the more rest Victor Hedman gets, if you can get him at that 23 minutes per game, you don't have to give him 25 per game. Is that maybe the key to unlocking maybe Hedman at his finest, at what he is right now in his career?
I like that thought. I think that's a great point, honestly. I think, to play devil's advocate a bit, the Lightning played 7D in most of their games, I would say, this past season. So obviously his ice time's going to go down a tiny bit from that alone. On top of that, it's not like the Lightning D played well when he wasn't on the ice, right? So
sure,
I think it also shows that, like, when he's not on the ice as much as he was, they're arguably worse. So while his production went up, I think if I'm them and he can skate 25 minutes, I'm putting him out for 25 minutes. And unless someone proves to me they can be a solid 5-6, he's got to play more minutes, I think. And look, we're at the end of this sequence with the Lightning where they have all these star players, and that's going to come to an end in the next few years, we'll say. I think you just want to maximize what you can right now. And look, if that means Hedman has to play more time, so be it. I don't think he'd shy away from that.
I think there are two big X factors to what we're going to get in Victor Hedman in next year in terms of ice time. One is Lilleberg, as we've talked about him before, because like you said, if he can be that guy that anchors that bottom pair, and he's somebody that you go out there and just say, give me 16, 17 minutes a game without screwing anything up, which is basic. That's not a joke. That's what you expect from your bottom pair. That's going to help Victor Hedman get some rest. And the other big factor to me is JJ Moser. Yeah. Because we mentioned in our breakout candidate show, he's a guy that had a lot of offensive upside in, it was Arizona. Well, he was there. And he didn't necessarily meet it last year, but his defense efficiency went way up. So if JJ Moser can kind of go back and be that guy that can chip in, 30 to 35 points per year and sort of carry, at least be a really good number 2 puck carrying D-man quarterback, then you're going to give Victor Hedman some more depth behind him. And I think you're going to be able to use Victor Hedman more efficiently.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think a big part of that was Moser did have a somewhat long-term, forgive me, I can't remember the amount of games, but he was out for a length of time last season. Yeah. And, that creates a big hole too. So yeah, if Moser can get out there and get back to like an offensive style game, I think that'd be huge for the Lightning. And I think what you said early on as well, Lilleberg is a huge X factor this season. Look, if he cuts down his penalty time by half, all of a sudden he's amazing, right? He is generally pretty good positionally. He plays the puck well. Like, he looks like a great defenseman, aside from like this disciplinary issue he has on occasion. Mm-hmm. And I don't even want to say on occasion. I want to say it's frequent. And it needs to be much less. And if he can do that, look, I think it's huge for the team. That's such a small change for the Lightning that will have such a huge impact that people overlook. It's just such a small thing, but cut the penalties back, and all of a sudden, all these games look a little different.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that's what happens next year. I did like what I saw from the Lightning defense as the season went on. It was kind of a hodgepodge, but I think you had players like Darren Radish kind of settle in. And I really like, some of these players coming up, like Max Crozier, I think is going to have a big year. And you know what? I'm with you, Greg. I think if Lilleberg can sort of hone in on what it takes to be an NHL D-man, I think you're going to see a big season from him as well that unlocks a lot of other stuff on that blue line. That's going to do it for the Victor Hedman talk. The next player up is going to be Nikita Kucherov. Big year from him, obviously one of the NHL's top scorers still after all these years. Does he continue that momentum going forward? That's going to be the talk on our next player preview for next season. Hey, there's still a lot to talk about on today's show, though. The Tampa Bay Lightning ranking number 1 on a new list from the Athletic heading into the season. Big hint, it has something to do with contracts. We'll talk about that coming up in just 1 second. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Folks, managing your finances is hard. Most people can't even name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's your 401ks, your properties, or your investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why you have Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get categories for your spending so you know how much you're spending on restaurants, shopping, travel, all that good stuff. It helps you finally feel in control of your money without ever having to touch a complicated spreadsheet. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. Again, that's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Get control of your finances with Monarch Money. Welcome back to Locked On Lightning. We are still a couple of months away from the start of NHL action, but hey, it's preseason list time, Greg, and no one has come out for the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Athletic have ranked their top teams in the NHL in terms of contract efficiency. And the number 1 team who has the best collection of efficient contracts, that would be Julien Brisebois and the Tampa Bay Lightning, Greg.
Yeah. Look, not a shock to me, honestly. I think we had discussed off air that, to be in a position like the Lightning are, you need to be contract efficient, and they have been. There are 2 that I want to go over. I'll throw the first one at you, okay? Brandon Hagel, 8 years, $52 million, sorry. That's a $6.5 million average annual value. Last season, he had 90 points in 82 games. So you're paying a guy that puts up 90 points, $6.5 million a year. That seems like a steal. And now let me throw in the fact that he's 26 years old. So you got this guy in his prime, outperforming his contract, and he's locked till he's 34. So, whew.
And I will point out, Dom Luszczyszyn ranked him the number 2 best contract in the entire NHL. Not just the second best contract in the Lightning. Brandon Hagel, second best in the entire NHL. Yeah,
I mean, look, he's going to get better, in my opinion. I think he's going to put up 100 or more this season, and if he's only worth $6.5 million, that's an absolute steal. There is no reason he shouldn't be in the top 3 of everyone's list for best contract in the NHL.
Even if he doesn't, hit 90 points again, if he settles into just being like a solid depth scoring guy who can maybe hit like 60, 70 a year, teams are paying $6.5 million a year for so much worse than that.
And also let's factor in the fact that he is a defensive guy as well. Think about how many penalty kills he helped score on with Cirelli. Unbelievable. You can't get a better 2-way player for $6.5 million, other than maybe Anthony Cirelli.
Yeah, and Anthony Cirelli was one of the guys mentioned on there too. So
I was going to say that's actually the second one I have listed. So
okay, yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, all right, I'll give it to you. So Cirelli, 59 points in 80 games this past season, and he's not even really known for his offensive game necessarily. And to put up 60 points, though, awesome. 8-year deal. $50 million, so you pay him $6.25 million a year. That's nothing for what he does for this team. Absolutely nothing. I would almost equate his value to Hagel's just in a different way, right?
Yeah.
They're different styles, but they are like basically the same value to me. And you're paying each of them 6.5 or less. Unbelievable. And then we'll toss in his age too. He's 28 years old. So you got this guy till he's 36 playing two-way forward for you. Oh God. And you locked him with Hagel and they play well together. That's just, it couldn't be better. It really could. It really could.
Yeah. Cause not only, another guy they mentioned is having an A contract was Jake Gensel, $9 million for 6 years. They really liked his value. They say he's probably worth even most of that. So you have him and Braden Point locked up and Nikita Kucherov on that top line. You have the core of your second line locked up with Cirelli and Hagel. And it seems like you just re-signed Gage Consalvage, which I think there's a chance, depending on what Gage does this year, that his contract is going to be mentioned as one of the NHL's top. Yeah, JBB is cooking with some of these smart deals and building a future out of them. I will say, Greg, only 5 players, and this is kind of just like the main top guys on the team right now.
Yeah.
Only 5 players did Dom at The Athletic say had sort of a negative value for Tampa Bay, like contracts that maybe aren't worth what they're getting out of it. They are.
Wait.
Oh, wait. Okay. Chime in.
Is one of them okay? Let me think about this. Then there's 5.
Okay. There's 5.
Okay. Is one Nick Paul?
It is not Nick Paul.
Interesting. Okay.
He has a B minus is what he gave. He said
I was gonna say that one's like about
contract.
average. Okay. Let me think about this.
One of them I think you will wholeheartedly disagree with.
Wow. Okay.
One of them I think might be shocking a little bit.
Is it Braden Point?
No.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
All right. Give him to me.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go in order. Yanni Gord.
Okay. I can see that.
Oliver Bjorkstrand. Who's just below. He said he's basically like his player model is worth $5 million and Bjorkstrand's making like 5.4. So
that's so interesting because I thought he looked great when he came over. And I thought he was awesome. And he ended up getting hurt, but that's interesting.
Yeah. He's still listed as a C+, so not like this is terrible, but maybe just not exactly worth what the total is.
Right.
On defense, you have Eric Chernak.
Okay.
Which
was a grade on that one?
Yeah. It was a C+.
Okay.
Chernak, 5.2 million is what he's making. He said the model's more 4.8. Okay. And then the last 2, Greg, the 2 goalies. And that includes Andrei Vasilevsky, a C+ contract.
What is the contract he's on right now?
9.5 million, has 3 more years left on it.
That seems so worth it to me, and I'm unsure of why you'd argue it isn't.
Okay, well, I'm diving into that. The other one was Jonas Johansson, who, sure, whatever, 1.3 million.
1.3, right? Yeah.
1.3 million for 2 more years. He said he's like replacement level below 1 million a year. Like that's sort of the value. So, okay, you can argue maybe there's a more contract efficient backup out there, but let's go to Vasilevsky because man, it just seems like I'm with you. Like it seems like what the Lightning are paying for him is worth it. And Vasilevsky gives you like the peace of mind back there. And look, it was like kind of splitting hairs because Dom Luszczyszyn said it's Vasilevsky in his models and stats and everything like that. 8.9 million is what he's supposedly worth. You're paying him 9.5. But one thing is, they signed this contract, a few years back when I think there was zero argument Vasilevsky was the best goalie in the NHL. You're locking him up through your prime. And you still have 3 more years of him. And maybe Vasilevsky's not the best goalie in the NHL right now. And you look at his numbers and they have gone down a little bit. But it's also not like he's hot trash either. He's still very, very good and a game-changing level player for the Lightning.
I'd argue, I don't want to go through all the teams, but I'd argue if he's not a starting goalie on 25 of the NHL teams right now, I'd be shocked over.
I'd go more.
Right. And that's why, to me, it's like, I don't see how it's not worth it. But let's just toss in the fact that he's won 2 Stanley Cups. Hello?
Yeah.
and he's gone to the finals 3 times in a row. Hello. So I think you already got what his contract is worth, right?
Yeah. And
I feel like
in a Ben Bishop bathroom break, let him be in 4 finals. So
it's like, to me, he's probably, like, in my mind, it's like he's worth more almost, but I understand the logic to a certain extent. It's also like you're signing a guy so long, and there is odds that a goalie is worse after 30, right? I mean, they regress pretty quickly as well. It's not like they are immune to age. So sure. I could see, paying him what he's probably 31 now, is it something like that? But he if he's got 3 years left, so he's signed till he's like 34-ish probably.
Yeah.
And that seems pretty reasonable to me. It doesn't seem like they went too overboard as far as like term, in my eyes anyway.
Yeah, and I think at that point, you'll be able to take on a step back and see not only where Vasilevsky is, but 3 years from now, I mean, it is kind of realistic to see it might be a point where JBB looks and says, like, okay, we're the Lightning as a whole right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think that's a bad contract at all. And, to be fair, Dom didn't say it was a bad contract. He just said it's not necessarily the best contract.
That's fair.
But he did have him as negative value. So
interesting
to say the least. Locked On Lightning fans, I bet you're going to have something to say about this. Chime in on our YouTube page. Hit us up on Instagram or Twitter. Let us know what you think of the Lightning's contract efficiency rankings. Again, on the next show, we're going to be talking Nikita Kucherov and his season. We've also got a frenemy lined up. We're not going to say who because we haven't recorded it yet, but we might have some talk on the Atlantic Division with a certain in-division rival. That's all I'll say. That's coming up on the next week's slate of Locked On Lightning shows. For the meantime, that's going to do it for today's show. For Greg Stephen, I'm Nick Morgan. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We'll see you later this week for some all new episodes.